Hello there and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
Do I go? I haven't been here in a long time. Should I go now? I'm Ryan Key.
Hey, it's Mike Forster. Guys, we have to go very quick. We don't care, Adam, that Story of the Year just dropped a new single today. Ryan, we don't care that Yellow Card has a collaboration with Good Charlotte. We have Brooke McDonald on, one of our dear friends from the pod, because we need to talk about what is happening at Disneyland and what comes of this in the future. That's what the people are here for. Brooke.
Hi, guys.
What the heck happened today? Hi, how are you? It's been so long.
My 2-year-old would say, "Oh no, what happened?"
Yeah. Brooke, really quickly before you tell the people what happened, remind everyone what you do for a living and why they should trust your opinion and your brain.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brooke McDonald. I am a journalist. I mostly cover theme parks and entertainment as a freelancer. And I'm a journalist in my day job too, but I cover a lot more nonprofit content and still some music and entertainment there as well. But I have been I've been covering Disney for a long time. I've been going my whole life. My family, we've been annual pass holders. We're Disney Vacation Club members. So I've lived it and, paid for it with my own money throughout, in addition to doing a lot of media coverage and so I've been around Star Wars Galaxy's Edge since opening day. I was there for, the media previews for both parks. Obviously have done Galactic Star Cruiser with you lovely guys. And so I've been more times than I can count, and I'm excited to hear what everybody thinks about this big news.
Oh, and we have stuff to say, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And before we get into it and we have our varying opinions, it is definitely worth pointing out that, Brooke, I think the first time I ever saw your face and heard your name was when you posted about Galactic Star Cruiser and the experience that you and your kids had and how sad they were when they were leaving. They were crying. They were so upset. And, you talked candidly about the emotional experience that it was for everyone and how much you loved it. And some of the feedback and the comments from the hater-ass trolls that were just, in my opinion, being so toxic and evil about this really genuine experience you had, trying to, call you a shill and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I either in the comments or something mentioned to you that this is an amazing experience. And I'm glad, I'm right with you. Like it's something to be cherished. So fuck those people. Sorry for the edit, Jason. So we come from the same place as fans and as park goers and people who love immersive experiences.
Yeah. And you know what? And just to say something very briefly about that, it was, I had always only done written content, didn't really do anything with video at the time. But I had taken, a lot of footage of the experience. And when I got all of that hate, I was like, and people were saying, those kids, all they saw was the tear photo that someone took it of us. And they were like, they're paid actors. And then I posted a bunch of videos of my 5-year-old at the time with Lieutenant Croy and this just totally transformative experience. And I was like,
hell of an actor.
This is not, just see for yourself. And that did actually turn the tide for a lot of people. And people were like, wow, this is really powerful. And that actor is amazing. And, and now here we are. But
here we are with a big piece of news about Galaxy's Edge, Disneyland, Batuu West. Big changes coming to the park. We've heard some rumblings recently, and then we got some official news today with some detail. You've known about this for a little bit of time. You were bound to the media embargo with releasing it. You want to go ahead and bring everyone up to speed, including us, because I don't think we're all fully in the know about all the stuff that's happening.
Sure. So I found out a couple days ago and did have some time to sort of think about it, ask some questions, some of which I got answers to, not everything. But basically, they kind of packaged it into a few different pieces. Number one, the timeline is being effectively fully unlocked at Disneyland only, not Walt Disney World. So this means that what we saw with it started with first Boba Fett and Fennec were the first ones, and then the Mandalorian and Grogu, and we've seen a few other characters come and go. Now, Mandalorian and Grogu and Ahsoka have been the ones who have been there currently, who are outside of that sequel trilogy timeline, which is between episodes 8 and 9 is where the land was designed to be set and kind of stuck. And so essentially they've said, we're expanding on what we started to do there, and we are introducing original trilogy characters. So that is Luke is coming back Luke in the same costume that we saw last year. He was out briefly in 2025 for Season of the Force. He's back along with Leia and Han Solo and Darth Vader and Imperial Stormtroopers. And with Vader and the Stormtroopers' arrival, Kylo and the First Order Stormtroopers will be leaving. They won't be roaming characters anymore. And then they're kind of shuffling around the locations of where certain characters are appearing. And they've also modified backstories of certain locations within Black Spire Outpost in order to sort of support this adjusted timeline. So Rey is moving to the Resistance Forest area of the park, and the Mandalorian and Grogu and Ahsoka will be staying in the marketplace area where we've seen them before. And then, Vader takes over where Kylo was, the First Order area, and Han, Luke, Leia will all be near the Falcon. And Chewie and R2 will be in both Resistance Forest. It seems like they'll kind of be moving back and forth between Resistance Forest and around the Falcon. And they also said that R2 will be near Droid Depot sometimes. And the one other thing that they told us is that those characters will appear in kind of varying pairs. So sometimes you might see Leia and Han. Sometimes you'll see Han and Chewie. Sometimes you'll see Luke and R2. They didn't tell us this, but my thought on that is probably also that it facilitates more transitions. Fewer, like every time you have R2, you don't have a human, you would have the person who's controlling R2. But so that kind of, I guess, gives a little bit more flexibility too with shuffling characters. So I hope that means that there will be a lot of constant character activity, given that supports kind of like the swaps in and out. Again, they didn't say that. That's just kind of my speculation on that. So that's kind of the big basic news for the characters. We can talk about the details, and I can share a little more about the backstories of the locations that are changing. The other big news is that the land is getting a new score. John Williams, all of the classic iconic film themes, not all of them, but a selection of them will now be playing only from the first 6 films, which I think is interesting. And I did ask about that, but I haven't heard back yet about it. But we'll be hearing the main theme, Force theme, I think are the 2 that they said will be playing in the entrance tunnels. And then we'll be hearing, a selection of different songs, of different themes throughout. And then let's see, those were really the big main changes, I think. And then we can kind of dig in a little bit more.
Let's get our initial reactions here, because this is a big deal. This is probably one of the biggest deals since the Star Cruiser closing, in my opinion, in regards to Galaxy's Edge.
Well, let's do this. Positive green. I'm not sure yellow. Negative red. What are each of our colors, Mike?
I'm hard yellow. I'm the hardest yellow. I'm the
Ryan,
yellow.
hard yellow.
Very yellow.
I'm kind of an amber. So which vibe do we want to lead with? Which one?
Then I'm that. Then I'm amber. If we can be leaning red, I'm on the edge of yellow and red. And
so should Ryan and I vent and then you reel us back?
You have the Balin skull color lightsaber. It's not totally red.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not that way because I'm not excited to see Darth Vader and Imperial Stormtroopers walking around. Was this the plan all along? Seriously doubt it. Were the intentions of supporting the sequel trilogy when they shifted from the initial concept of Galaxy's Edge, which was, Mos Eisley, Tatooine, and Endor, and are we going to have these original locations? When they shifted that to what we've experienced for the last 6 years, was that the wrong idea? No, I don't think so. I think the heart and soul of that was there's kids that love these movies, that Rey is their Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren is their Darth Vader. I understand the motivation behind let's lean into that. Brooke, correct me if I'm wrong when it circles back to you, if you can remember this, but I've read and heard in conversations with cast members and in the lounge at some of the cast members in the lounges at Club 33 are diehard Star Wars people, and we will just talk for hours about stuff. That early concepts of Galaxy's Edge also had a certain level of immersive experience that wasn't Bluetooth, like tapping your phone. It was like you're at the cantina and there's aliens there with you. And if that's true, if that's a real thing that was, spun around the boardroom table, I find it now even more unfortunate that they decided to shift to spending millions of dollars on this video game concept that, when you're, as a 46-year-old parent of a 2-year-old child now, I'm even more understand. How do you have time? We're the ones who would want to play that game. We're the legacy fans that were most excited about this opening in 2019. And when do you have time to just walk away from your kid and go around and start scanning stuff? I mean, we did it on the Star Cruiser and it was a blast, but that was a 3-day escape from family life and whatever else. And we were just on an adventure together like we were 10 years old. But I think they shifted from that initial immersive thing. And I've had all day to think about this. And I think where I first got kind of reactive about it and was like, well, they're just backpedaling and now it's going to be this hodgepodge mess, and it's going to lack any of the immersive experience that they originally intended, because now it's just photo ops with characters like the rest of the parks, the rest of the areas in the parks. And I think that's true. That is what it's going to be now. We were where were we today? I was at Galaxy's Edge today. Funny that we planned this to happen, because I had plans to go today with Nick. And so I was there, and we were at the bar and in Oga's, and the bartender said something like, I can make you that drink, but our spice order's been held up by the first order. So do you still want it without the spice on the rim? Where's that going to go? I mean, maybe Oga's is still in the timeline. I don't know. But little moments, little experiences like that, they go away when the timeline's unlocked. And let me clarify by saying that I always wanted the timeline unlocked, but from the beginning, I always personally felt like it was a mistake to put, especially between the two movies. Like, if there wasn't a creative way to just have it live in Rey's timeline, in the sequel trilogy, just in general, to lock it to this one little moment where if you tell a cast member, your kid tells your cast member they love Rey's yellow lightsaber and they're required to say Rey doesn't have a yellow lightsaber, that always really bothered me. And now I think it's just photo ops with characters. And I guess my last point would be, I think that's unfortunate that immersive concept of, if this had felt like you were just walking around in an outpost in Star Wars at any time, because there were so many characters that were not Darth Vader, were not Han Solo. They were just in universe, in costume, really making it feel real. Then a photo op with Darth Vader is a photo op with Darth Vader, cool, but we're on a moon in Star Wars, and that's what we're doing. And the storyline, I think, is really challenging to maintain. But the last point I will make, and what I've had to think about for most of the day, is none of what I just said matters. Because most people are casual fans of Star Wars, and while I wish that those people who are not as deep into it as far into it, consuming their lives as it is for us, that doesn't mean I don't wish the experience that we have or the knowledge we have for them. And had Galaxy's Edge been done differently, maybe is the right way to say it, I think bringing the average 40-year-old original trilogy fan in would have had them excited just about being there for Star Wars, and all the gripes and groans about Rey and the sequels and Kylo and that's not my Star Wars. You're not going to get the kids stoked on it if their parents that are bringing them to Disney World aren't stoked on it. And I think that it just could have been a different experience from the beginning, and now we're backpedaling and turning it into photo ops. And I think it's going to be fun, and I think it's going to be really cool to see Darth Vader there. But I think just like Star Cruiser, it is a sad and unfortunate missed opportunity. But I do think that we are in a certain class of people that think that it's a missed opportunity, when the world at large is just going to be like, hell yeah, Darth Vader's at Disney World, at Disneyland,
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'll rest my case.
I think what was done was much more of a George Lucas, Walt Disney kind of move at the beginning. Because I was the same when we talked about it. The idea that it was going to be some, no-name cantina on some no-name planet was kind of like, what? Dog tilting their head? But then hearing mainly Doug Chang talking about why it was done that way, the idea that it's a place to write news stories for us to live in canon is so much cooler. Because in some ways, I feel like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is not as cool as Galaxy's Edge simply because it's playing make-believe in the movies in a way that seems like, I don't know, it just seems shallower. But at the same time, they have there something that I think Galaxy's Edge has always gotten wrong from the beginning, which is they have no main characters except in the rides.
Mhm.
I think that's cooler because
I agree with that.
you're always going to like butt up against like the likeness not being identical. Obviously, it's not the same person.
Can I interject really quick, Adam, before it leaves my brain?
Yeah.
Meet Minnie right around the corner when you leave Galaxy's Edge. 25-minute wait. Meet Minnie. An experience at Galaxy's Edge where they rotate characters. Meet Darth Vader. Meet Han Solo. Whatever. That would have been so cool. And I totally agree with you keeping the characters and the experiences inside the rides. Then you could have rides in different timelines and like we're going to have now. But at least Smuggler's Run is interchangeable. But either way, keep going. That would have been, I agree with that. And I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah. So living in the world is, to me, the coolest part about it. The tough thing where I think people tend to think that Wizarding World is better is that it's familiar and they're like, oh my God, I'm in the place. Mm-hmm. I'm going to bounce around here a little bit. There's an easy solution to that, in my mind, that we've been talking about on the podcast for years, is putting Batuu in a damn movie, in a damn show. It's such low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And the executives already have such sway, such pull, such heavy-handed control over the stories. Stick the park in the damn movie, in the show. How many dozens of different opportunities have we had? So
the whole thing with Lando and Han in Solo could have happened on Batuu.
It could have happened in Skeleton Crew. The pirate planet that could have been Batuu. All these kind of different things. I do want to back up for a second though, and just qualify everything we're saying here. We have long on this podcast been fully divergent from the crowd of toxicators on the internet, making sure that we talk about the things that we love about Star Wars, because this is our modern mythology. It's what we love most, and we respect other creators and artists because we as artists have been in that place, right? So the writers, the directors, the cinematographers, everyone involved in making any level of Star Wars, all the Imagineers and everything, we have no interest in bashing anything they do or even speaking negatively at all if we don't like it. We talk about the stuff we love. That said, I feel like these changes are top-down, corporate-directed changes. And all the work that's done to create this new era, via Matt Martin as a writer, other folks from Story Group, people that we know and love their work, all respect to them. And they work within the confines of what corporate tells them to do. So still, all respect to them for their hard work, and they're going to do a great job within those new guardrails that have been set. Question real quick, Brooke. So this is just Disneyland, which is great, but there will be multiple timelines across the park, right? It's not as if all of Batuu West is now set in the Age of Rebellion, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So the Resistance area, basically from that entrance over to Rise of the Resistance and the ships that are over there. Oh, and Rise of the Resistance there's no change to that attraction at all. So you will still see Kylo and First Order Stormtroopers there. So that remains there, and Rey appears there. And then so New Republic, Mandalorian, Ahsoka era is basically surrounding the marketplace, and then the original trilogy characters are kind of around the Falcon, and then over towards what used to be the First Order. I will say though, and this is still not completely clear. They have adjusted backstories of a few locations. For example, they've said specifically that Droid Depot is it's now run by an earlier generation of Mubo's family.
Okay.
They've said that that Oga is it's still Oga's, but it's very soon after she has arrived and Blackspire Outpost and has taken over. So it's before she's kind of got her stranglehold over the whole outpost. And then also the one that had to change the most, of course, was the First Order cargo shop right next to the TIE Echelon. And that's going to be called Blackspire Surplus now. And there's a whole backstory to that, which I can read the details of, but I think that would be that's diverging. So maybe we'll circle back to that.
Are they going to reskin or replace the Echelon?
They no, and in fact, they have they actually kind of made a comment about how it actually still kind of does fit. But the thing I want to say about these different eras is everybody's kind of like, oh, so wait, what, is this detail right in that shop now? And I asked a lot of questions about things like that. Like I said, well, wait a minute. So this, of course, you guys will laugh at me asking this of all questions, but I said, well, hold on. If we're going back decades in time to Oga's, are we still going to hear Gaia's music? Because wasn't that like her Galactic Superstar current hit that we hear there,
Yeah.
Ulashuka currently? The short answer to that was yes, Gaia's music will still play there. And I kind of also the sense that I'm getting is that maybe I was focusing too much on the very specific timelines and how it, impacts the overall story, the timeline that they've given to these locations. They have given a new timeline, so it is worth discussing. They don't do things, and Matt doesn't write a new backstory for something that doesn't need to be there. So I was really curious to dig into it and question it. But I think that in order for people to not get frustrated with these kind of details, it's more about when you're interacting with certain characters, you will be in their timeline, and that's the focus. It's that you're not going to be talking to Ahsoka and have Darth Vader marching by, questioning people looking for, Luke Skywalker at the time that he's looking for him. So I think that is kind of how they're wanting us to think about it. If you could enjoy talking to Ahsoka, talking to Mando and Grogu, but then also going to the other area and, hanging out with Rey, then that's the way that this will work for people if it does. And Ryan, I know you said, it's just photo ops. And I think that's the thing. I'm not sure how these are going to work right now. They showed us they showed us the costumes, for example, for Han and Leia. And I liked that they are giving them new, slightly different original costumes for this, because it feels a little less like, just meeting, Rapunzel and Flynn Rider or something kind of a thing. And I was kind of like, well, hey, and they talk about Han, he's going to be hanging out around the cantina. I mean, if Han if Han's played by somebody awesome who brings some Wraith Cole energy and is great at interacting, then maybe, it remains to be seen. Maybe we could actually get some of those immersive vibes that we're missing. But those characters, I agree with everybody that, we've learned, I think more than anything, when we did a Galactic Star Cruiser, and everybody will agree, I'm sure, generally everybody was maybe the least attached to Rey and certainly least interested in Kylo Ren out of everybody. It was the unknown characters that and it's easier to connect with them that way. So, and Ryan, you mentioned earlier as well, there were earlier plans that didn't come to fruition. If there was a Sandro, if there was a musician, playing, that could have brought things to life a lot more, kind of engaged people throughout. So there certainly were things that are in the concept art, how far along they made it in the real plans, I don't know. But, I hope it does seem like there's going to be a lot of activity. I hope they bring those kind of immersive interactions to it. But remains to be seen, I think.
And I mentioned this, at the end of the day, with all of my thoughts I have about it, we are four of a very small amount of people that will know that Gaia's music in the cantina is not in the timeline of Han standing outside the timeline. That's just outside the cantina. Excuse me. That's just reality. This for me is more about not understanding fully. I never will. We never will. The inner workings and costs of the corporate decisions behind all of this, but. You close the Star Cruiser because you can't. People aren't coming on it more than once because it's the same story and it's expensive and all those things. It's like, so you close it for 3 months and make new LED wall material and have it be an original trilogy adventure. It would sell out for 2 years. It's like this unwavering commitment to like, no, we made this new content and we have to stand behind it at every turn without any ability to open our minds or the idea box to like how to keep this going because it doesn't fit in the sequel trilogy timeline. And I don't know. I just wish there would have been more forethought. That's all. I agree with you, Adam. Like, our friends who are working on this are going to do what they do best given this opportunity, but they weren't the ones who went upstairs and said, let's bail all this and put Darth Vader in the park. They're gonna create each of these timelines that Brooke is talking about for your interaction with Darth Vader, and it'll probably be really cool. It just seems like, how can we be? I mean, again, we don't know the costs of the inner workings of all this, so it's easy to armchair quarterback this. But how can we be the ones sitting here going like, this would have been the thing that worked, and any ideas we've ever put forward seem like the best ideas ever, and now they're backpedaling towards like lower rent versions of a lot of the ideas we've had, and we just hosted a podcast.
This is the picture yourself in this moment. Okay, Brooke and I and Adam we're in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Yellow Card is playing for the wholesome salt of the earth folks of Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And 3 songs into Yellow Card's set, some woman who was overserved that day screams, "Play Ocean Avenue." Ryan, you weren't exactly having the best day. There were some technical errors. And you literally were like, we're going to play that song. I don't know why. I'm not trying to be mean, but like, don't worry. We are going to play our most popular song. Just don't yell stuff out at us because like
trust us.
But you know what I mean? And what it was like, this woman was so uncomfortable for 2 songs that she didn't know as well as the most popular song of your catalog at the time, that she had to yell at you for this. And this sense that like, even in our comments on Thank the Maker today, some guy wrote, finally, they're listening to the fans. And I'm like, dude, I am such a fan of Star Wars that I actually like the stuff that you thought you were too good for. I actually liked the idea that writers took chances and gave us new stories and gave us a ton of new content that builds upon the stuff that I also love. And so when you claim the fans, I'm not like you. I like it all. And that part, it feels disappointing, like a person who is screaming, I don't want to put in the work to understand Star Wars anymore. I don't want to put in the work to understand that Star Wars has evolved beyond when I stopped caring about it.
Or not even put in work, just be open-minded enough.
Just be open-minded enough. Yeah. And that was like, that part of it feels frustrating to me, that like we have almost, it's like more of like it's a smaller version of how we view media literacy, in terms of going like, we can't move on from going like, thanks for writing new music, guys. We appreciate you, but just play Ocean Avenue 10 times and then we'll be with that.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is though, the world at large is not open-minded. I mean, that's just a fact. And they're more concerned with the closed-minded people who need to see the classic characters. That's going to get them to buy a ticket. That's why they're doing this. They're doing this to sell tickets.
Well, you're completely right. But I think to your response to Mike's comment about, to my comment about being open-minded, what I should have said was being like, more like, open your heart and open your mind to being taken by the experience of the park. Don't go in with preconceived notions, like get on the ride, literally and figuratively. in the way that Walt Disney wanted everyone to at the beginning. Like, trust me, I'm going to give you an experience that's amazing if you're willing to accept the opportunity to have that experience. And that takes not only like imagination and like a childlike openness to just fun stuff, but also a longer term business strategy. Because we're now at a place where like, because everything's been enshittified for the sake of shareholders, that it's all about the next quarter or maybe 2 quarters ahead. Like the idea that we would have to plant seeds way ahead of time with this story and then eventually, get the park or this world into one of the properties on screen and 10 years down the road, it's fully immersive. And then this whole new generation is now setting up for the next generation is not part of the corporate playbook anymore. Like it's too long term. No,
it's not. And this may be a conversation
Brooke.
For another time, but when Walt Disney invited people to come and experience the magic, it was magic. They walked in there experiencing a complete escape from reality. This is all day, every day. People are escaping from reality now. So that's a really tall order to ask everyday people who are not, in the fandom the way we are to be going to Galaxy's Edge. Most of the people walking through there are, they're strolling their kids through there. They put themselves in debt.
T-shirts and ears. T-shirts and ears.
They want to see Mickey Mouse, dude. And it's like they want their kids to see Mickey Mouse so they can get out of there and go home and get back to work or whatever.
And it's a species now.
But
that's kind of my point. That's my point. That's all I'm saying.
Brooke raised her hand a minute ago, though. So Brooke,
Brooke,
we've been shouting at you.
No.
Brooke, why did you do this to us?
So the thing is, I just want to zoom out a tiny bit for a minute and say, first of all, like we're all in agreement that the original plan and, the land as it could have worked and as we envision it, of course we preferred that. I think we have gotten so far. I think that in my recent trips, we've gotten really far away from that. And it's not even about the average guest needing to have Darth Vader, but it's just sort of like they don't necessarily know what to do. There's not, at least, and I've experienced this at Disneyland more, not a lot of interaction. My kids and I kind of we sort of stopped trying to talk in story, to cast members and things like that. Cause it's just, I think, and I don't even know that it's because of the cast members so much as it's because, the average guest never does it. So they're trying to be accommodating to what they expect you to be. But, I think if there were, I was describing this to someone the other day in Animal Kingdom, there's the Wilderness Explorer game. You can go to 24 different cast members over the course of a day to get these stickers. If there was a cast member who said hey, kiddo, here's a sticker with a star on it, but then underneath it, there's a resistance symbol and, go look for the lady with the blue hair and show her your sticker. Mm-hmm. And, but don't let the guys in the white suit see, you know what I mean? There could have been I think if guests who had no idea what to do with this were, could be onboarded, maybe we could get there. But I don't know if that's realistic. We all got very well trained by Star Cruiser on how to play here. I certainly did. I had never done anything like that. And I did not, I was the most awkward person on earth talking to, a face character. I still kind of am, but I learned a lot about how to do it, from Star Cruiser and how to have fun with it. So I think in some ways I don't even blame the average guest for us getting here. There's no more Jedi training. There's not my kids, my older son loved to do that. And then it stopped for COVID and it never came back. So there were just a lot more ways to engage. And so I'm of the opinion that I kind of just thought it was going to be stagnant for a while. So I'm always of the opinion that more Star Wars, at least in any way, that they're doing something new, that they're putting something into it is always better than doing nothing. The most recent cruise ships don't really have a Star Wars presence, which I've been so bummed about that I was maybe they're scaling that back. Star Wars everywhere completely in Disney experiences. Mm-hmm. So I do see some of this as okay, well, they're trying something new. But I think to get buy-in from a guest, you've got to show them what to do when it's something that's so against your intuitive way of behaving.
I think the fact that it's just it's so vast now, and those of us that love it as deeply and are as invested, are as invested as deeply as we are, we need a certain thing, and the average guest who's not needs a totally different thing. And I think they're really struggling with that. That's really the bottom line. I think
it's hard
they're
to
really
create
struggling
that Venn
with
diagram.
how people can just walk into Galaxy's Edge or into a Star Wars experience on a that they're going to spend money to build on a cruise ship, when maybe, even though Star Wars is however we say it, the biggest franchise or one of the biggest franchises of all time, whatever, that doesn't mean that the average, I know who Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker are because I watched the movies as a kid, fan has the bandwidth to like go into a Star Wars like room, with like characters and feeling immersed and feel like, I don't think that's the desire of the mass, star. I think Launch Bay is more what they're looking for. Bring my kids, get a picture with Darth Vader.
You're completely right. Like, I think you are factually correct, because a lot of people I've heard, like casuals, normies, say, I kind of like Star Tours better because they recognize it, because they don't quite get it. And that's half on someone, or that's partially on someone just being a normie, and that's no one's fault. But it also is on them a little bit for not being willing to like get on the ride and accept the magic.
Yeah, sure.
And then it's also on corporate for not letting their creatives really cook and find some way to satiate both, especially because just outside the land, you can do those other things. In Disneyland especially, you get Magic Kingdom. So you get these opportunities to do that other stuff right outside. So when you come in, I mean, man, think about like just if there were more screens everywhere with some kind of like HoloNet news type thing, and we were hearing about what's going on. Imagine we're in this outer rim territory. We're so far from all of it. We have very little presence on our planet of Batuu, but we're really seeing what's going on there. And there's just a little sprinkling of First Order or Empire or whatever in the park, and some more immersive world building type stuff, I think would complement that. And then you get on the actual rides and you really get it, right? So like, I don't think it's that hard, but I think it is a case of like, Mike, talk about this till you're dead. Art by committee.
Don't die.
And also talk, because I know I just see like your gears are turning, like there's about to be smoke coming out of your ears. So please, Mike, talk more.
I know, but wait, Mike, don't talk yet. I'm sorry. I'm not letting you talk, only because I'm watching the clock and I know Ryan has to leave. And I really, Ryan's John Williams episode was one of my favorites ever on your podcast. And I really want to hear Ryan's reaction to the music before he has to go, if we can.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I wonder why it hasn't been there all along. Honestly, shame on me maybe for not paying more attention to what we've been given musically outside of the cantina. I'm really familiar with the cantina because I worked with Roger Bartley and Dan Fontana on the parade, and they literally wrote and recorded every piece of music you hear in the cantina here in Orlando at Ti-Fi Studios. So I'm really familiar with that. But in terms of walking through the tunnel and what's been played there, I'm not sure, but like, why did we not hear ripping in the park? Like, yes, John Williams and the score should be one of the most featured things to invite I'll use your word, Adam, the normies in. Welcome, listen to this. This music. They pull you in through this tunnel to a place that's very familiar to your childhood and your psyche because it's Star Wars. And better late than never, I guess. And again, I do have to go, but I hope that these are all moves towards creating a better experience for people, so that the world at large can move closer to our mission of just loving Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because this park has, the Galaxy's Edge has undoubtedly caused and sowed a lot of division from its inception. That's just a fact. And it should be a playground where we all go together as Star Wars fans to be the most excited we've ever been as fans, because we're in it. We're in it. Like, could I imagine going to Galaxy's Edge when I was 10 years old? Like, my brain would have melted out of my ears. Like, I can't even understand what that would have felt like. And it feels amazing. I was there today. I still love it. Anything I'm saying or have said tonight does not reflect like how much I love being there and hearing the sounds and the ships fly by and getting a cocktail in the cantina. And I love it. I do. I just think I think that this whole thing from the beginning, I wish we could unravel back to the first kernel of an idea and figure out why it wasn't it wasn't more appealing to everyone.
Yeah.
But and it's going to be now. Hopefully, it's going to be now. This is going to get people excited to go there and get have an experience with Darth Vader or Han Solo or Luke Skywalker. I'm pumped about it. I think that part is cool. I would love to see Darth Vader walking around on a Star Wars set in real life. That sounds really sick. I just am equally, in love with the concept of the immersive nature of Galaxy's Edge, and I think that's going away a little bit. Like a one-on-one immersive experience, like you talked about, Brooke, with Darth Vader, that's cool, but that takes away, or that doesn't do the same thing as, this being in a movie. The whole everywhere you walk is it's your own adventure in this thing, and I don't know how they could have even done that properly. I'm not suggesting. When I get in political debates with my dad, he's like, "What's your solution then?" And I'm like, "I don't have one. There is no. I don't know what the fix is.
I'm not the governor."
As a Florida resident, or as a local to Walt Disney World, are you happy that your version is not changing, or do you wish you were getting the music and those changes?
I would love, obviously, for the music to come here, but the only reason that I'm excited about it not coming here is because I hope that it's a play test in California for a final vision, or an understanding of what it really, what the best version of this actually is. And when they figure that out, it comes here. I hope that's the way this goes down. But I gotta go. I love you guys. May the force be with you.
Say hi to Snips for us.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Hi, good to see you.
I'm going to have dinner with Ahsoka Tano, everyone. So I'll
Nice.
I'll update
Casual.
you. All right.
Okay,
Later.
bye.
Casual. Bye.
Okay, Mike, you're on. I'm so sorry I interrupted you. I just wanted to hear his music take.
You know what I mean.
I know you're the host, but I had to ask.
I don't know.
Too.
Do you know how many friends we have that could just be at this point where we have this working title of Jedi Council members of people who come on every time we want to have a co-host, and you're one of them, and Dion and all these other people that have great takes and professional responses. I think really in hearing all of that, for the sake of the art, for the sake of how many talented people they have working here, things like the TIE Echelon's story getting changed as I'm revising a text is so cheap to what the Disney standard at what point I think should have been.
Cheap ass retcon.
I am fine with the TIE Echelon, some kind of cargo crates or something. We are under repair. Something's going to happen over the next couple months until Mando Grogu. And then at this point, change it to a TIE Avenger.
Yeah.
Change it to something that feels different enough. Or at that point, give us portals in the sense of you go through a hyperspace feeling to know that you
go through the world between worlds. They could make a tunnel.
Different parts. Something along those lines that just goes there is a visual indicator that you're in a different part, so that it does not feel so much like it's just a photo op. And I think that's the part where I go this all seems like a change that could be made for all of the changes that they're recommending seem like it's a $10,000 change for a park that has never gotten less expensive.
I mean, well, one thing I will say, I mean, we are at least getting the new Mandalorian and Grogu mission. And just to give a little bit of detail to that, it is, I did get confirmation that there won't be any closure time for that. So we can expect that there's not going to be any substantive major change. You know, the queue's not going to change. I assume if it's not ever going to have any closure dates, then it should be relatively the same, and there will just be some modifications to Hondo's pre-show. So the pre-show will stay the same. I think we know, and it's kind of generally been said or accepted. I think it's even been shown in early panels before the land opened that there were more potentially multiple stories in development. Yeah. So I think we're seeing, you know, finally, you know, the potential of what it could do there. And hopefully, kind of like Ryan said, it's almost like a test case for, okay, does that make people really a lot more excited about Smugglers? And maybe we'll see, as there's all of these new series and films and everything, and we get into this era where they really are making a lot of stuff right now on screen. Maybe we'll see more of that. And your question, when you talk about kind of like a little and seemingly not super expensive addition overall, these different characters and everything. I mean, I think you're probably right. And I think maybe, you know, are we in a sense, are we collectively as the community getting too bent out of shape or drilling down too hard into all of these things? If it's kind of like, it's essentially like a season of the Force level of change in some ways. You know, we had Luke, you know, nobody completely lost their mind when Luke showed up last year, I don't think. But everybody's really feeling like either way, I don't think. I mean,
I thought it was whack as shit. I maintain that it's whack as shit. But
sure.
Like, I don't want to see Luke or Leia roaming around.
This was announced as a bigger, you know, an official, we are unlocking the timeline. So, you know, it was a big announcement, I think, to effectively open the door for the long term. And so there's that. I mean, at Walt Disney World, I guess I'm surprised that they wouldn't do something like that at Walt Disney World, just because Disney's Hollywood Studios is about 50% under construction right now. I mean, half of it is closed. You know, Muppets Courtyard is closed. They're doing a ton. So this $60 billion expansion, I mean, there is a lot in progress. There is not, you know, there's not a lot opening in 2026. But there's like, I think the only Muppets, the Muppets reskin of Rock and Roller Coaster we will get coming up this summer. But the Monsters Inc. land and then the animation, everything that they're doing, which in the former Launch Bay area. So all of that is closed, and all of Muppets Courtyard is closed while they build Monsters. So I could see a good case for, you know, a big draw to Galaxy's Edge right now there. But Disneyland and Disney World operate differently, you know. They do things separately. They operate differently. Interestingly, hearing so many people upset about the change, it's kind of like, and that's what Asa said. And he said, you know, it gives people sort of two different experiences that they can choose from or do both, going to Disneyland or Walt Disney World. I've also heard some people really, and Adam as a musician too, well, both of you, I really want to hear what you guys think about the music too, because going to Universal, going to Wizarding World, and going to Jurassic, in both of those lands, when you walk through whatever their entrance is and you hear the John Williams music wash over you, I'm like, it's immediate goosebumps no matter how many times I do it. And so I think Ryan made a great point, which is like, if you can, the way you can unlock that emotional response 10 times more maybe in the average guest, I think could be one of the most powerful things that they're doing, the most significant really to this change. I've heard some people say that they're not happy about it because it again dials down the immersion. But if you think about the current entrance, like, you do get that gentle version of the John Williams theme kind of woven in with the soundscape. And they did say that, you know, the radio is still going to play, like, I think we're still going to hear those sound effects, but you might kind of, the way the entrance tunnels are now, you know, you'll hear a little bit of the love theme, or you'll hear, kind of like the ominous music. And I mean, we hear, and people say, oh, it kills the immersion because there's not like, a orchestra playing in your regular life, but nobody has a problem with that on the ride. So I don't know, it's on Rise of the Resistance the whole time.
Right,
There's music everywhere.
I completely agree. And I think part of the way that Galaxy's Edge is constructed makes that tough, because as great as Disney is with immersion in terms of blocking out the outer world, the idea of the berm that separates everything, that is one thing I will openly complain about. They did drop the ball a little bit in terms of like really separating Galaxy's Edge from line of sight of other things. I should not be seeing Toy Story Land when I'm seeing anything Star Wars within my line of sight. You think about Wizarding World in Orlando, you go around that brick wall and you are in Harry Potter, period. Like, you see nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't give a shit about Harry Potter even 1% as much as Star Wars. But when I turned that corner, I was like, oh, this is how you do it. Wow. And if they would have done something like that, and the tunnel on the First Order side, if that was a little longer and curved, and as you come through, you had an experience as if you are traveling through time and space in some transformative way, and it did bring you in with the music, I completely agree. That would set the tone. And then beyond that, it could be the little different corridors, the lightsaber experience. I mean, you hear the Williams music there, I bawled my eyes out. It was incredible. You get into the cantina, you hear cantina favorites. You get on the rides, you hear them there. I think there are so many solutions to create a more immersive experience that would be a much smaller financial investment. But I think what they're doing, this big overhaul with a big press release, is as much to get the eyes on it and set expectations that we're doing big things. We promise this is going to be good. Investors give us money. It's as much that as anything, because you can make small, more financially responsible incremental improvements, but that doesn't market the way a big announcement does. So
I think I think we're kind of all circling the same thing. Is like, these creative people are so good,
yes.
Yet it seems like they just get stunted at the grandiose vision of what seems to be so easy for someone who actually likes thinking within parameters of going, okay, if we have these things we have to hold ourselves to, how can we do little things? The missing aliens that are still walking around, that should add immersion to the fact that that's not Mark Hamill, that's not Harrison Ford. And part of what I've loved about Star Wars and defended is that I think Star Wars is one of the greatest pieces of literature in human history, in regards of going, it is one timeline that started 50 years ago, where every piece that's added to the tree respects another branch that came before it. So now we've kind of moved away and are now going like, well, here's this actor that's playing this person. And we didn't have a definitive version of what Rafe Cole looked like. We didn't have a definitive version of Vi Maradi. We had this idea of a character. So it allowed for other humans to be able to play this character that we knew and loved. But now reducing the character that has been put into them, and I know this makes me sound like a stuck in the mud curmudgeon about this, is almost like just reduces it to the idea of going, well, now when Boba Fett comes on, do people go, well, I liked Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, and so I don't like this as much because it's Mando Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, which I didn't really like. It's like one more thing that just shows like the scale is sliding. It's not definitive. And in Star Wars, the thing that I've loved about it is that scale never really slid. It was like people like Matt Martin, who are so good at writing stories and so good at being creative about how characters can interweave with each other, was able to do that, and sliding all of this story that we had kind of backwards into like, well, we're making this more of a homogenized experience for the average person. I feel weird saying like, I just don't know if this experience is for me anymore, in the sense of like, I'm still going to go really enjoy it. But like, I feel my heart hurts for the creative people who put so much work into all of the work that was intended to be there. going back to the original idea of what Galaxy's Edge was supposed to be with the market and all these different people, that Star Cruiser people actually ended up kind of being the off-worlders that were walking around within the market and all of those amazing things. Once again, it's hard not to get disappointed in my sense of it, of feeling like the creativity of what I've loved about Star Wars is just kind of going back to the old well to sell more park tickets. And that's kind of how I feel about it in this moment, the day we found out about this.
It feels more...
Well, let's take a moment, though, for the... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I can talk about the score.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let's take a moment for the creativity. Let me tell you a little bit more about what Matt said about... Because I actually, I think, and Jason mentioned, not hearing some of this stuff. And I actually think Matt described, for example, the Black Spire surplus store, which I actually think has a more interesting backstory. And from the concept art we saw, looked cooler than, so I'll give you a little more than what was in the release, which was that Matt described, these are Matt's words. He said, he said, first order cargo, it's becoming Black Spire surplus. And he said, recently 2 retired clones made their way to Batuu and set up shop. The brothers fought together during the Clone Wars, and then opposite each other in the war against the Empire. One of them fighting for the rebels, another fighting for the Empire. Now they're back together post-retirement, trying to set their differences aside. And we saw a rendering of what the shop looked like. I'll mention that in a minute. And he said, they deal in military goods. They use their wartime expertise to identify unique items from past conflicts that allows this shop to feature a wide variety of military, this is maybe a bad transcribe, and supplies from any side or faction, any era, Rebel, Imperial, and beyond. So, and we could see in the background, I saw for you, Mike, a bunch of Scout Trooper helmets in the concept. They've kind of got a little bit of everything, and it looks like, and also we've never had a clone backstory, I don't think, anywhere involved in Galaxy's Edge. So, I think a few of these changes at least are going to give fans new things to look around at. Doc Ondar's, he said, let's see, what did he say about Doc Ondar's? He said they will be displaying a new array of one-of-a-kind items from galactic history. So he said you'll see some items from some of the new shows. So real authentic props too, they've brought in that have come from some of the newer series. So I think, that's kind of all the things that are up on the wall and up around the perimeter. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And I mean, I like the idea of having something new, that it's changing a little bit for people to go in and find new details, because some people who love this place so much have, studied every single corner of it. So I do like the idea that
you replace it all with
things
the
are
giant
changing a little
flag.
bit. I don't think they're replacing everything. I just think that they'll be.
Just joking.
I didn't hear what you said. Oh, I saw Adam left though. What did you say?
I just said replace it all with just a giant Gorman flag, and then just well,
the galaxy's watching. I'll say one more thing before we read a couple Patreon comments and then get into the bonus segment for patrons and check out for the normies. I'm going to reserve judgment until I see this. I'm like you, Mike. I'm like all three of us. We're not going to stop going. We're going to go get everything out of it that we possibly can for the rest of our lives. As long as it exists, we're going to go. But I honestly think seeing Darth Vader, seeing who knows what Disney cast members playing Luke and Leia and Han Solo, it's going to make it less immersive for me. It will take me out of it. It will break my suspension of disbelief so quickly. And I'm not happy about that at all. So that's going to be all from me until we get into the bonus segment. I'm going to read from patron the Blue Guy 808, and then we have an audio message from 43% Burn Anakin, best screen name of all time. The Blue Guy says, I don't hate it, but I figured out now why the change doesn't feel right. It's because now Galaxy's Edge doesn't feel like a living, breathing Star Wars village we could visit anymore. It's essentially a zoo with no fences around the exhibits. The characters are zoo animals, now to view at your leisure. It feels like they just gave up on all of the lore of Black Spire Outpost that's been accumulated up until now. The Halcyon was just the start of it.
Can I say something about that?
Oh boy, here we go. Responding to the patrons.
I do actually like a couple of people said, oh, like why don't Leia and Han have their classic costumes? And Adam, when you were talking about being taken out of it, like I do actually prefer at least a little bit of a modification to that. Matt described Leia's costume a bit, and we know that Matt Martin loves Leia, like it's his favorite character, and really takes doing her justice seriously. And she does have a cost. It's kind of like I guess it was inspired by her adventure costume in Battlefront 2 and also a 2015 comic series. It looks kind of like Hoth, like her Hoth costume, but it has like a brown vest and everything. And so
it's like a Hoth.
I do hope like versus like as opposed to having, a New Hope dress Leia, where I totally agree that would 100% look like a zoo where you're just looking at them there. And it's like, I still really hope that maybe she will be a little, will be crouched down and talking to a little girl and kind of, the way that Rey, for some reason it works. Rey works for me in a way that like, I usually like, if I see a Disney princess, if I see Ariel or something, I'm like not good at interacting with someone like that. But I'm still hoping that they apply some of, some of the lessons learned from Galactic Star Cruiser. When I did the Disney Destiny, I was, there's an entertainment director who did a lot of, or maybe oversaw all the entertainment there. And she was from Galactic Star Cruiser. And so many of these interactions where I was like, this feels like Star Cruiser level back and forth, like just brilliant improv skills. And so I'm still really hoping that, they surprise us. Yeah.
I mean, the toughest part, I think, is we're talking about Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher.
I know, that's the problem.
I mean, I'm so surprised that they would make any attempt with Han Solo, given the backlash over the movie Solo. I think they underestimated the power of, American cinema's greatest hero of this living generation in Harrison Ford, and then Carrie Fisher being no longer with us, the matriarch of the entire franchise. Those are massive shoes to fill, whereas Rey was still a new character. And there's something about the style of that character and the British accent that we as Americans are just more inclined to go along with, I think.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. The stakes are different, and it's a different game.
I agree.
So
we've got a speak pipe, Adam, from our favorite screen name in the Discord, 43% Burnt Anakin.
Let's hear that message. Hey fam, it's 43% Burnt Anakin here. I've been mulling over today's news, and I am going to be so stoked to go to Disneyland and see Darth Vader walk down the steps of what really should be an Imperial shuttle. Come on, Disney. I know you listen to the pod. Get on it. It would be sick. But I'll also be mourning a little bit because we're losing something that I found to be very special about Galaxy's Edge. And that is the overall commitment to continuity that has been diminishing over the past few years. And this is kind of the final nail in the coffin for at least Batuu West. But being able to go to Batuu with my wife, see my wife's Kylo Ren Minnie Mouse ears and say how she wants to rip them off my wife's head and throw them on the ground. Because if you read Black Spire, you'll understand how much she hates the First Order. And we're just all living in that timeline together. And it's so much fun that we're committed to like having the same day in Batuu together, no matter where you go in that part of the park. We're moving more towards the traditional Disney parks model of you meet Pocahontas and she is living in the 1600s despite being around the block from Doug and Russell from Up and next to a churro stand. I get it. This is a move that's in line with Disney merchandising strategy of pushing the OT, but I am kind of bummed.
Yeah.
It's fair. I think that's really what it comes down to is like the fact that people are conflicted about this, that it's not just an easy layup, I think actually should make people like Story Group and the original Imagineers of the park go like, dude, we did something. Like it did work with the most hardcore of people, unfortunately, with a lot of things. I think what I'm just getting at all in all is like, I think there should be a pressure release valve that honors how many hardcores are actually out there asking for these things. And I feel like Disney has teased us obnoxiously so by actually giving us that experience, giving us an entire park, and then going, well, now we got to slide it back a little bit. I'm like, just expand, give us another spot for us people to come and ask the clones what battalion they were. And you guys are brothers, you're all brothers.
Yeah.
But what battalion were you from? Which Jedi did you serve under?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? And this is the part where like, I feel bad because whoever this poor person is that's going to play Han Solo, you're going to get some dork that's going to come up to him and be like, all right, so on the 16th mission to the Twin Suns, what exactly were you running in that one crate that, Chewie said you shouldn't touch? And this guy's going to be like, hey, kid, it's not that kind of park.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, final thought. I guess the most befuddling part of this whole thing to me is it's been such a topic of conversation that in the age of endless scrolling and the near death of most in-person experiences and the movie theaters being on life support, essentially, immersive experiences are what everyone is looking for. This move at this time is that much more confusing given those circumstances. All of that said, once again, nothing but respect to Matt Martin and Story Group and all of these creatives who are part of this, who are, I'm sure, thinking all of the same stuff we're thinking and have all the same wants and desires and hopes and dreams for this park, these parks. And they're doing their best within the mission that they've been probably often begrudgingly given down from the top. So respect to you folks. Thank you for continuing to create within the constraints you're given. And we love you and appreciate your work. So we're going to talk a little more in the bonus segment for patrons. We're just going to keep going. I'm probably going to be a little less filtered. Everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, may the Force be with you. Thank the Maker is produced by Adam Russell and Jason Chiodo and edited by Jason Chiodo. If you enjoy the podcast, you can support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, and more. Our patrons literally make Thank the Maker possible.